What's Boca saying today? Well, today we're going to summarize the election. With us is Jack McWalters, who's been our commentator at large for the past 2 months. We've learned a lot from Jack, so we're going to ask him to wrap it up and tell us the important points going into the election booth on Tuesday, March 14th. Hey, Jack.
How you doing?
Good to see you on this side of the table.
Yeah, this is unusual.
Yeah. So, okay, we've come full circle. So now let's get right to the facts to help the voters. Let's start with seat B, the seat that Mike Millay is exiting. We have 3 candidates. We have Emily Gentile, Andy Thompson, and Andrea Levine O'Rourke. So quickly give us your take on each 3 candidates.
Well, thanks for asking me that question, because I have a different view for the election on March 14th. Is that basically what it is a bunch of shareholders called the Boca voters are going to decide who they're going to put on the board of directors. That's basically what it is. We have probably the most valuable city in the county. It's worth over $20 billion in assets. So we have to know that the people that go on this city council know how to handle money, understand urban development, understand the problems with traffic. And basically, with Ms. Gentile and Mr. Thompson, I mean, they're very nice people, and I think we should applaud them for running for election. But in my mind, they're total strangers. I don't know how Ms. Gentile, who went before the city council and said she represented all the residents in Barrier Island.
The board of the Beach Condo Association. Again, our association represents 63 condominium buildings along A1A in Boca Raton and in Highland Beach, equating to more than 15,000 tax-paying residents, is supporting the waterfront Hillstone restaurant on the Wildflower property.
I went over and talked to many of my friends over there, and they, in the last 6 months, I'd never heard of her. They didn't know that she was running for election. Nobody's ever seen her up until the last year on any committees of any kind. And basically, she's pro-development, which is her business, and that type of thing. Now, as far as Mr. Thompson's concerned, pretty much the same concept. He's only been here 6 months. He claims he lived outside the territory or something or whatever, but he's never been on any city committee of any kind. Claims he's an engineer, a traffic engineer, an urban planner, like both of them. And if they are, I'm an astronaut. I don't understand how these people, how they can come into the city and fool us. I mean, basically, Mr. Thompson he said in one of his deals, he said, grow or die,
Right.
build or die. He's a land lease attorney for developers, and, that's his shtick. That's what he is. He's not trying to be anything else. He's basically a stranger who's come into the town. And let me point out 4 things that they have in common. One is they're, as I pointed out, they're really total strangers, and they both believe in the commercialization of all city-owned property on the Intercoastal. They both want a Wildflower built. They want a fancy restaurant to be built there for their friends over on the Barrier Island and the hotel crowd. They both support the Midtown rezoning of 2,500 boxes with windows going in over there off Military Trail. And the last thing is, which I think is really embarrassing, and I feel sorry for both of them, but the last debate that they went to, they showed such lack of knowledge as to what's going on in the city that they're both booed.
As far as the fire department is concerned, those are county jobs, and those county positions would still maintain the annexed areas.
It wouldn't. That's not correct.
Yeah, it is.
No, that's not correct.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely correct.
To all of our detriment, she has represented her neighbors to the detriment of all of us. This is a problem. If this were...
And so really the shareholders of this company, called the Boca Raton Corporation, have to know that the people that they're putting on the board of directors understand the flow of money. And I just saw this flyer here with, for Ms. Gentile showing a train wreck, talking about liens and bankruptcies and stuff like that. I just don't feel that she should be on the city council. Now let me talk about Andrea O'Rourke, which you all know her. I mean, she's been around for 37 years working on these issues. Which I find fascinating is that she's been working on issues for this city longer than Mr. Thompson's been alive. He's 34 years old.
Yeah, that's ironic.
And how could we possibly not vote for Ms. O'Rourke is beyond me. And there's one thing that happened, though, that no other campaign has done, is if you read her flyers, there's a bullet here that I think shows that her vision for the future is unbelievable. She's already looking out 10 years. We had a 1-cent sales tax, and she had it on her. She's going to be a watchdog of how to spend the dollars from the penny sales tax referendum, prioritize our infrastructure repair needs. She is already with a vision that knowing that this city this year alone is going to kick up taxes for $35 million just for Boca residents, $300 million over 10 years. She is so astute that she's already looking out in the future of how to spend those dollars. So I obviously you have to go with somebody with that experience.
Sure. All right, so then now getting into the mayor race. We have two candidates. We have Al Zaccaro and we have Susan Haney. Susan Haney's been on the council for 17 years. 3 years as mayor. How would you grade her going forward?
Well, Mayor Haney's an unusual mayor for me. I remember being up in City Hall 20 years ago, running around, and I thought she was a intern or high school kid, and then she came on the city council, and she did an okay job but the last 10 years has been, she's thrown in with developers, and she is what she is. I really can't say any more than that. But just recently, on March 25th, 2014, I watched a clip where Andrea O'Rourke summarized all the things that she campaigned on.
I would like to start by wishing you, Mayor Welchel, the best of luck in your future outside of city work, in your personal life. And I would like to congratulate Susan Haney and Mike Millay and Robert Weinroth and Scott Singer. You have taken on very important jobs, and during the election we heard a lot of promises. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Mrs. Haney, you told us that you would have the right plan to control growth. You said you would enhance infrastructure for pedestrians, parking, and traffic. You said you will focus on issues that matter most to the citizens, and that you will conduct interactive public hearings for the development process. You promised to follow the guidelines to the letter of the law, and that you will prevent overdevelopment and balance growth through more public input and traffic analysis.
This is 3 years ago. Traffic, how we're going to put more parking downtown, and I talked about that in prior deals. There is no ability to put parking downtown, and overdevelopment. I mean, I just am shocked that here we are 3 years later. I just feel like she is spitting in our faces. She thinks that we're fools, and she's still saying the same thing. And how can we be so stupid to buy into this again? I mean, it just, and then she surrounds herself with a crowd of people that have these terrible ads, that come out. I mean, here's this one on the boogeyman, and that's what she's saying about the people here, the nice people here at BocaWatch and her opponent. I mean, that's her style of campaigning. She did this 3 years ago, too, and it worked, and I just think this is disgusting. What she really ought to be doing is talking about the issues. I think many of you saw in the newspaper where they had the monster of Meisner, and this is showing a development that's going in, one of about 20 developments going in, and we should be talking about that, the effect of traffic and all those types of things. Now, Al Zaccaro is a different cat. Let me tell you something. He has 8 years' experience helping run West Palm Beach. He took on the developers up there. He's a street fighter, and he's the most hated, dreaded man in this city in the history of Boca Raton to developers and special interests. They're going to spend $1 million, $2 million in TV ads trying to destroy him because they can't allow him to be mayor of this city. And the residents ought to understand that. If their vision of this city is continued out of control development, then go for it. That's my take. I think it's an obvious decision, as to what to do.
Another plus about Al is that along with Al comes Yvonne Boyce, who is one of the most respected women in South Florida, champion of the arts. So the Zaccaro team that we would have in office is killer. It's a great team. So then moving on again to Susan Haney, as far as her track record. You mentioned briefly Midtown, how Emily Gentile, Andy Thompson, and Susan Haney, were all pushing Midtown. And how does that impact with the Tri-Rail?
Well, that's a fascinating story. Just recently, there's a development called Ocean One up in Jupiter, and the developer is using, I view as the same con that's being used down here, is that you got to build this, and then put a tri-rail station, and everybody will be happy. And in this. Which is what they're doing down here now, is they're saying, we got to put 2,500 units in over on Military Trail. I call them boxes with windows, and for God's sake, I don't know what it could be, low income housing. It needs more analysis. It needs mature people looking at it as to whether it's the right thing to do. Of course, they need development over there, of course, but each project has to be looked at on its own. But here's what happened on March 5th of this year. The Palm Beach Post published an article, and I'll read it off to you, because the developers, in a meeting that Steve Abrams, the best mayor we've ever had in this city as far as I'm concerned, who's now the county commissioner and works on the transportation board, he blurted out, he said, there is no money to build for stations in all of Palm Beach County. I'll say that again.
Wow.
County commissioner just contradicted the developers, Mayor Haney, Ms. Gentile, and Mr. Thompson. Honest man came out and said exactly what's going on. And I don't see this honesty and transparency anywhere else, anywhere in this city. If you want to check, it's in the Palm Beach Post on March 5th, and the title's Ocean One.
All right, good. So then, speaking about transparency, Mayor Haney has kind of overlooked the 1% sales tax, the ramifications for us, what it's going to cost us, what are we getting from paying that sales tax?
Well, I was actively involved for 2 years, and I'm shocked that Mayor Haney did nothing to educate the people of Boca Raton as such a bad deal this is going to be. $300 million is going to be sucked out of the city over the next 10 years. That comes out to about $30 million a year, maybe 35, and all that money is going to the county. And they're going to build, they already announced they're going to build 40 new schools up there. And there's virtually nothing coming back to this city. This mayor had a moral responsibility to educate the people in this city, and she didn't. She didn't do that. She did nothing about it. Steve Abrams voted against it. Eventually, the mayor voted against it, but with a very quiet deal. And then when she's asked, well, who's up there protecting our interest? And because they put together a citizens committee and representatives from each city. There's nobody up there representing Boca Raton. Yet we have somebody running for the council, for the city council, Andrea O'Rourke, has a vision seeing that we're going to be taxed without representation. And the only thing that I'm thinking of is that this mayor is going to use this to ingratiate herself when she runs for the county commission. She said, look, I convinced all those people down in Boca Raton to contribute $300 million, so you better vote for me. I just think it's a gross injustice that she's performing on the people in Boca Raton.
Well, that brings us to the last issue, which I think a lot of people are concerned about, is traffic, everyday traffic. We have Susan Haney, who says she's a traffic expert, and we have Andy Thompson, who's also claiming to be a traffic expert.
If you all saw my last presentation where I was talking about traffic, their idea of one way this way, one way that way, and it's not going to solve. It's not going to solve. It might solve 1% of all the issues in their city. But what they've done is they had a workshop where they talked about bikes and trolleys, and then finally the mayor just starts giggling or whatever, and rightfully so. She said, "There's no solution for traffic. It is what it is. We're going to put up all the buildings in the city we can ever squeeze into downtown, and it's just going to have to live with it." And she recommended Uber. There's 45,000 Uber drivers in New York. You know what the biggest issue in New York now? There's too many Uber drivers. We got a problem. We got a serious problem, and I don't see mature people on this city council attempting to solve it. We're being laughed at, is what I'm seeing with this city council. I just think we need a change.
So how important is it that people get out and vote on Tuesday, March 14th?
I think it's their last chance. I think we're done. The city's done. Downtown is virtually done. I think people have saw my last commentary where I showed all that purple, where all the construction's going in,
right.
And more is coming. Now it's flowing right out to the west. Right. I think it's done, and it's going to be their last chance. And if I were they, I would make sure I'd be there early. I'd make sure that I get all the relatives there, and it's going to be their last chance to shape this city because we're done after this.
Well, and let's not forget that the polls are open from 7 to 7 on Tuesday. And thank you, Jack. Thanks for all your commentaries over the past 2 months. It's been very educational. And hopefully we'll continue from time to time with as things come up within the city.
Oh, thank you, Katie.
Thanks, Jack.
Yeah.
Well, that's it today, folks. Thanks so much for following us. Please stay informed, stay involved, and keep your comments coming into BocaWatch.org.